No. It's like a... Like it almost feels like a tick. I don't think it's a real tick, but it definitely, when I'm editing, sometimes I'll cut around it and stuff, I don't have anything. It's frustrating. Whatever. That's the one thing I've found,
Do you maybe just notice it more because you're watching video back?
Yes, 100%. I don't think I'd ever notice it. I don't think I'd ever notice doing it if I wasn't watching myself, and trying to edit my thoughts and conversations, whatever, for sure. I was going to say one of the things about doing all the shooting and everything, it has this weird sort of feedback loop where, I thought I was a pretty secure person with myself, and I was, and that's what I'm coming to. I am, but I definitely go, as I'm editing, I know, it seems like I'll notice something, and I'll be like, why do I do that? That's stupid. Why do I do that with my hand? Why does my face do that all the time? And then, I'll start trying to do that, stop it. And, then eventually I'll just have to be okay with it. You know what I mean? So it's it's that weird thing where, I pick up on things now. I pick up on things and become self-conscious about them that I probably would have never picked up on. So but then I get over them. So, then I accept myself more. But also, if I had never noticed them, I wouldn't have had to accept. It's this weird feedback loop where it's why do I do that? I guess I just have to accept that about myself. And cool, but I never even would have noticed it and had to accept it about myself if I hadn't been doing this nonsense. Welcome back to Legends in My Own Mind. I'm sitting here for the third week in a row with the queen of Central Illinois wrestling, the lovely Stephanie King.
We'll be running with the Lions. We'll be running with the Lions. They can't run, they can't hide. We won't stop until they're down. We'll be running with the
Stephanie, thanks for joining us once again. So we've talked about your history, the chronological history. Last week we talked about, kind of how you developed, how you learned to do all this stuff. So this week I want to know, the brass tacks, everything come together. What's your philosophy on wrestling?
Not everybody can be a wrestler, and that's okay. It's okay to be a manager. It's okay to be a referee. These are all parts, cogs in the machine that are just as important as the wrestlers, if not more so. And there's a serious lack of, everybody wants to be the star, and there's a serious lack of people who are willing to be the second star or, be the referee. And there's been times where we've had shows with only one referee because nobody referees.
For sure.
And nobody can't. And not everybody. If everybody's the star, then who's going to be in the the show? Everyone has their place.
Right.
And it's okay to be just a manager. And you're still adding to the story. You're still creating a persona. You're still, interacting with fans, and you still get fans.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
But there's a lot of this mentality that, the guys come in and they're just like, I'm going to be this great big wrestler and I'm going to be so popular. And, and then they got to start off as a referee and they get mad about it.
Yeah.
You can't be mad about starting at the bottom.
Right.
Everyone has to start somewhere. And sometimes being a referee may be your niche. It may be what you're really good at. You may need to come to terms and have that talk with yourself about, do I really want to be a wrestler?
Right.
Or do I want to keep doing this? Referees spend more time in the ring than the wrestlers. So if you want some ring time, be a referee.
For sure. I want to be seen more.
Yep.
You're gonna have 2 or 3 matches on a show at least.
Yep.
Sure.
And there's always times where you get worked into the match and you can be a part of that. And, you may have to take a bump or, pretend you don't see something.
Yeah.
And, or you get to be part of it by being distracted by the manager.
Right. So what do you think it is that sets somebody apart? Like, what do you think it is that makes somebody a manager or a ref or, rather than a wrestler? Like, what do you think makes that difference?
A lot of time it's the personality. Especially if you have a very good ability, you can be a mouthpiece and you can be a good speaker. That's, what you need to do, and you're still a very integral part of everything because you have to get over, your team or your wrestler and the other people that they're facing. Your job is to actually help both at the same time.
Right.
Which as a wrestler, you really need to help yourself and the other person get over. But as a manager, you specifically, like, since I'm a bad guy, I'm going to do stuff to mess with the good guys to make me and my guys look bad. Weather's really nice today. And getting sympathy for the good guys so that, elevates them as well. And you may not be able to be a wrestler. Not everybody has the ability, the personality, and especially if you don't want to put in the time into training.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to put it in and you just want to be a superstar right off the bat, absolutely no. You need to rethink some things.
Yeah, that's my big one. So many guys want to be a wrestler, but they don't want to put in the time to train or even get trained or think they got enough training.
And there's no such thing as enough training. There really isn't. You can always, brush up on basics, learn, new things, and there's always something new to learn from somebody else.
Yeah. Well, so many guys don't realize one of the things I've noticed. I've been wrestling 21 years. I've been training 21 years. And so many guys don't. And we grew up on stories where Shawn Michaels trained for 2 months and then he was off on the road. Great. You know what Shawn Michaels did? He wrestled every night of the week.
Yeah.
He wasn't just wrestling on. Nowadays guys, you might only wrestle once a month. You might only wrestle, like wrestling every weekend is a busy schedule for most guys.
Yeah.
Nowadays. So like I don't know if I'm going to go back and look for that to edit, but it's distracting. Like a loud car I can ignore, but when they come by,
sirens.
Yeah. No, but so like that training still happened. You know what I mean? Like he started off, working underneath matches, and that's what the training was back then. You might get a little instruction on the basics, and then if you got that, you went off on the road, and then you trained
as you went, because it wasn't really a school.
Exactly.
That wasn't a thing.
Right.
And there were territories, and wrestling was, you can't have that old school mindset anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's not a thing. That doesn't exist.
Yep. If you want to get sharp, if you want to be one of the best, you have to come in here, you have to practice. So, one of the things we brought up, is that you felt like managers should be trained like the guys.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the boys, girls, whoever, as the wrestlers. Why?
I feel like, at least for me, it gave me a better understanding of the moves, and it's, you tell me, oh, well, we're going to do a hammerlock. That just, but when you tell me, well, we're going to do a hammerlock, I can visualize what that looks like because I've done it.
Because you've done it, yeah. Okay.
And I feel like it helps me understand without having to, being in that situation is what makes it more solidified for me. And I feel like that's what's helped me as a manager, is the little bit of wrestling training I have done and some of the basics that I've done.
Okay. That's
So
good.
I feel a little bit closer to them.
Yeah. That's good. That makes sense. I mean, I don't think it's I don't think it's out of. Let me see. I don't think they shouldn't train. You know, sometimes you hear guys, you know, or the old schoolers that are kind of like, you know, oh well, you know, a manager shouldn't learn that because a manager shouldn't be taking clean bumps. You know, like if a manager gets bumped, it should look ugly because he's not a wrestler.
Yeah.
You know, so like, you know, I don't know if I necessarily think that. I mean, I can see that point, you know, but also, I mean.
But then safety becomes a concern too, because if you aren't doing it properly, like you can do it properly and still make it look bad.
Right, for sure. But I don't know if I think it's a prerequisite. You know, it's kind of one of those things. Like I guess it depends on a given guy's comfort level, maybe given performer's comfort level. But I don't know. So, what do you think makes a good manager?
Personality to start with. You've got to be able to, you know, if you're just going out there and standing there, that's not going to do anything for anybody. But you know, try to understand what you need to do to get to your crowd. To get them to love you or hate you.
Right.
And, you know, slapping hands is all, you know, doing the high fives and, you know, greeting everybody is always a good standard face move. But then being the heel, you've got to come up with something else. Just calling everybody stupid doesn't work.
Right.
But, you know, being able to read the crowd and being able to adjust on your feet on what you're doing. Because, you know, you may have thought about doing this thing and then you see somebody that you just really think if you mess with them it's gonna benefit you,
right,
as far as getting you over as the bad guy. And sometimes it's a lot of fun. Or the little kids start messing with you and you just you can't fire back at them because they're little kids.
Right.
And having a really good, not being sensitive.
Yeah.
Because fans get ugly.
For sure.
It's so ugly. I've been called every name in the book and then some. And actually, one of the names that I've only ever been called one thing that ever got to me. And it was by a 10-year-old boy. And he called me the Pimple Princess. That broke me. That broke me. So, you know, being called all the other names didn't mean jack, but when the little boy called me the Pimple Princess, like...
How much of that had to do with him being a young kid, though? Because it's almost like it's almost like when I'm out there and like adults are shouting stuff at me, right? I almost kind of am like you're sitting there trying to think of that, aren't you? Like you know, like especially like towards the end of the match, like how long did it take you to come up with that, bro? Cool. You know, like little kids just say what they see, you know? Yeah, exactly. So it's almost like it's a little more genuine, but also it's a little kid, like, for sure.
Yeah, you can't go after them like you can an adult. But, you know, you got to you know, you can't be real sensitive either, because if you start taking the things that they're saying to you to heart, it can really affect
for sure
how you feel and how you perform.
Well, yeah, you're not going to enjoy it.
No,
you know,
absolutely
if you don't have that tough skin to enjoy that kind of back and forth, you're not like, this is going to be a real rough. This is going to be a real rough business, whether you're good or bad. So one of the things that comes up with managers on the indies, and I assume in the big ones, in the big leagues too, whatever, the tendency, you know, the feeling, the fear, I don't know. Sometimes a manager will like kind of go into business for themselves, you know, and like they want to be like how do you okay. Like when a manager, like there's a thing where a manager can steal the spotlight on the show in a bad way.
Yeah.
You know, where they're just overshadowing the match and they just, you know, they're not working to enhance the match as much as they're working to get over themselves. Yeah, you know, make themselves the star of the show. Do you give that any consideration? Do you feel like that's a worry? Did you...
I'm conscious about what I'm doing.
Okay.
Ringside.
Yeah.
Because I don't ever want to overshadow what's going on in the ring.
Okay.
There was one time, and it was unintentional, but it was, I was told it overshadowed what they were doing in the ring. But it was a battle royale. We were at SCW, Danny McKay, and he called the spot, but I couldn't quite hear him because it was really loud and everybody's out there. And Justin's going to do some big thing to Madman.
Right.
And Danny grabs me and he kisses me. And then I'm just like, you know, because that's what
right.
you do. And then I was told, you overshadowed. And I was like, I'm down here and there's 100 other people. Like,
Man.
I don't feel like that's happened, but that's how the wrestler felt.
Okay. That's fine.
So I do try to be very conscious about what I'm doing outside of the ring and how it may be affecting what's going on inside the ring. And I don't want to detract from that.
So what are you conscious of doing that?
Like I don't try to interact, like I interact with fans, but not to the point where it's just a constant back and forth with whoever I'm, you know, because I want them to watch and enjoy the match too, but I'm going to feed into the name calling or whatever, or I'll just do things to be annoying on the outside of the ring, but it's not really, going to detract from what's going on in the middle of the ring. Like if somebody's like, you're in my way, I'm going to make sure I make a bigger stance for about 10 seconds and then I'm going to move on. Like I, wasn't really doing that, but I'm only going to distract for a little bit.
Yeah. Long enough to annoy him and then get out of the way. That makes sense. So, okay. We also have talked a little bit about, I brought up briefly that I see kind of two different kinds of managers. The ones that, are like Bobby Heenan, where they're kind of become the star of the show just because, not in a good way, right? Bobby Heenan was, bigger than anybody he was in the ring with in a good way. Yeah. And then, sort of seconds that are a little less, like Jimmy Hart comes to mind and Sensational Sherry comes to mind when I think of, the people who were I'm trying enhancing the pack, they became part of the package, not they were there to lift a guy. Like they would put guys with Bobby Heenan, and that guy would be a main eventer because Bobby Heenan was there. Yeah. When they put Jimmy Hart with somebody, when they put Sensational Sherry with somebody, it seemed like they would bring a new dimension to their package, might make the package bigger and better, whether or not they became a main eventer or not.
Yeah.
Do you see it that way? Do you have a more nuanced view of it?
Well, see, and I try to be more like Sensational Sherry, Jimmy Hart. Like I want to be the second. I have never in the indie seen a manager be the bigger personality, the greater aspect. What I actually see a lot is people who just don't interact and they just stand there.
Yeah.
And that's what I see a lot of is there's either those that are trying to be the co-star to the match or people who aren't doing much of anything to elevate the match.
Yeah.
So I would like to see more, I think there's a place for managers that are like Bobby Heenan and can boost a wrestler just by being with them. Right.
That makes sense.
I mean, there's been times where, I was like, the person, especially late, I'm like, they're over because I'm such a bad guy. They're over as a face because they're going against me.
Right. Well, absolutely. You know what I mean? And like, even when, when they put Sensational Sherry with Shawn Michaels, I think, she had been with Savage, she had been with DiBiase briefly. Like, I think putting her with him still elevated Michaels. Now she's with Shawn Michaels. He must be as good as these guys. But she also started dressing different. She acted a little different. She became part of his package. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that was a package that, even though I wasn't actively watching at the time, I've watched, past things with them, and it was very cohesive.
Yeah.
And that's really what I myself try to do is be that cohesive part of the team.
So how do you adjust yourself to be part of the package while keeping your character intact?
I mean, part of what helps me feel like being part of the team is kind of dressing similar to whoever I'm working with. But as far as being able to be my own personality, that's just something I've worked on and I've cultivated over the years. And
So it's just something that kind of comes natural.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just something that I've been doing for so long. It's just, and I've made such a reputation for myself that I can just go out and I can put people over by just being my presence and being myself.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. So what would you say to all the young managers out there, or anybody wanting to be a manager? What would you say to them? Best piece of advice you can give them. Sorry, go ahead.
Definitely have some microphone skills. It makes life a lot easier. But don't forget, you're your own person, and you aren't just a manager. I hate that mentality. Mm-hmm. You are part of the show. You are just as important and just as integral, and don't ever think you're not.
Yeah.
Don't ever think you're lesser than, because you're just as important. You're still a character.
I like it. I think that's a good place to wrap up. I think we have a good view of your philosophy on wrestling, how you got there. But I don't think that we can get a full picture of who we are as wrestlers without coming back to that fan inside of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So next week, we've got one more week with Stephanie King. We'll be back next week. We're going to just get back into it, have a little fun with it, remember why we love this thing, and she's going to give us her dream Survivor Series team. So we'll see you guys next week. Thank you again for joining us in Legends in My Own Mind.
We'll be running